Welcome you back to The Block is Hot. I'm Charmaine James of Not in My City Unite, and I have Etha Eglin right here from the Eglin Group.
Yes.
And we're going to continue to talk about rebuilding the block. That could be any block in this nation or in the world, and also about generational wealth. Explain to us how important it is as an entrepreneur to have a great team around you. I hear you talk about your coaches or your mentors and having a good, but let's talk about a good support team around you.
One lesson that I have learned in this season is that I'm not a one-woman show.
That's it.
Last year, I had a record-breaking year in real estate. It was my best year ever to this date in my career in real estate, and I was tired. I was worn out. I was going to bed every night with the computer, waking up. I was grouchy. I didn't have a lot of time for my family. And I'm like, now, wait a minute. This feels like a yoke. And then God clearly showed me it feels like a yoke because I've been telling you to build a team, and you've been like, oh, well, no, Lord, I don't want to be responsible for anybody else but me. And so the importance of having a team around you is so that you can have leverage.
That's good.
Right? Because we're called to help others to build wealth, right? And so here's the thing. This year, well, one of the strategies on my vision board this year is conglomerate. The Lord clearly showed me that I was a conglomerate. And I had to go look it up to see what it meant. And basically, that's an entity that has all these other entities underneath it. And the Lord said, in order for you to do this, you're going to need a team of people that you birth the vision, and then you assign people to different aspects of that vision. And that's why the team is important, because if you don't build a great team
That's good.
of support people around you, it's going to be a yoke. The vision, the dream, you're going to quit, you're going to give up, you're going to go back. And here's the thing that I learned through Diego coaching me through this, because he really worked with me hard this year about doing things, right? First of all, you got to pray and ask God to show you talent, right? And sometimes God will show you the unlikeliest of people, but they got talent, right? And our job is to develop the talent in people. You got to be real slow in the hiring process, because you got to make sure that people buy into the vision.
Yes.
Because people are going to be loyal to the systems and the processes that you help create, because you got to think about it. They already have a dream. They already have a vision. They just don't know how to execute it. And so this is why you got to have a team, because when you only have so much bandwidth by being a one-woman show or one-man show. When you build a team, you can cast your net wider.
Wow, that's good. That's good.
You got to have a team of people around you that you can help leverage that, someone to do the admin. That's a gift.
That is.
I just hired a young lady, fantastic, as my admin. And before I was making the decision, I was praying for balance, because I was so exhausted. And I just said, okay, Lord, we completed this project, and now I'm going home. And I'm going to lay before you this week. I'm going to work from home, and I'm going to get myself back into balance and into sync. And little did I know that after I went through the interview process with this young lady, Shantae Thomas, and she came on, after she came on, God showed me, oh, she's a balancer.
Wow.
She's going to bring balance to you, and I'm so grateful for her, because by her coming on and us being in sync in the same energy, it has lifted so much weight from me. So now I can really focus on the aspect of building the business, being the conglomerate, and building the business up. So you have to have a team that you trust, that buy into the vision.
Let's just shift, because you talked about you in Houston and your real estate agency that you work with there, but let's start shifting into what God has you doing here in this area. And for you to do that, let's talk about rebranding yourself. Because when I watch you and watch all the different things that you do, and then you sent me the information about you starting doing stuff here. And when God tell you, you just run and do it.
Yeah.
And so
I don't even think
you
twice
don't even think
sometime. I
twice.
just go,
No, you
Charmaine.
just go.
Yeah.
And so when I was looking, I said, she's changing quick, and she's able to rebrand herself. But yet, as our pastor was teaching us, in our pastoral mentoring moments, that the assignment and the call is the same, but the directives was different. And so change is good. And just so people can understand what rebranding is, because sometimes people don't understand that you cannot stay the same. When the seasons change, you have to change with it. And you can't dress the same, look the same. You have to rebrand yourself. So when I had to go and say, let me look up rebranding. And it is a marketing strategy in which things are new, which is a new term or a symbol, design, concept is created and established a brand, which is intentional to develop a new identity, a different identity is what we need to know in the minds of the consumer, the investors, the stockholders, the competitors. So I can't be the Charmaine I was 2016. That for now, I'm not. So if I know I'm not personally, if I know I'm not spiritually, and my outside still look the same, then I really haven't changed. And that's one thing I've learned from leadership here, that Pastor Felshaw and pastors, they can rebrand quickly. Rebrand quickly. So talk about rebranding as an entrepreneur, so people can understand that once you open it, things shift and change, and you have to shift and change with your brand.
Yeah, because, with the rebranding for us right now, so we're actually doing both entities right now. And then we have a third that it's not on the back shelf, but these two are the ones that will open up the doors for the rest.
Okay.
And so I don't believe that I'm the first to ever do it, because I didn't blaze the trail. It's a mantle that's been handed to me, and I decided, okay, I'll take it and run with it. We have to stay relevant, because we have to stay reachable, right? Not just to the consumer, because yes, we do earn our living and everything, but there's a generation that we need to be able to speak in their terms, in their language. And if you don't know the signs and the times of this generation, then you're going to be ministering to the same stale people. and that's just not, he says, I send you out to the four corners. And so the rebranding concept was like, okay, who are we now? Who have we grown into from day one and today, year, whatever. And it was important to capture that. And the way that we're doing it now is basically through technology, through media, through social media, through technology. This year, I put back quite a bit of operating expenses to be able to. So the vision for this year was telling my story. Yes. Yeah. And without saying I was telling my story.
No. Yeah.
And there's several people
Visually.
that has told me, oh my God, I just love following you on Facebook. And I was like, what? And I wanted to make sure that I was telling the story. And I said, what is it about follow me that you like? She's like, I just feel like you're telling your story, and you're very relatable, and you're very approachable, and just you're inspirational. You're an influencer. You're motivational. And I just by watching you, I just feel like I can do it too. Yeah. And that was the whole purpose of rebranding, is just to reach the masses and say, no matter where you started, you can restart again. You can restart again. And a lot of us have dreams that were lost. Because of life and circumstances. And the part of that rebranding for us is just having something tangible that people can then grab hold to. Yes. Grab hold to a concept, grab hold to an idea, because guess what? If people don't buy in to what you're doing, then you're not making an impact. So that's one thing. We have a lot of things that are going to roll out in the next 90 days. that's just gonna set us apart.
Yeah, well, I mean, I follow you because I know you, and I'm like, I don't know what else you can do, but I mean, I like the freshness
Yeah.
of knowing that you're just jumping out to rebrand. And I know some people don't have the courage to do it, and I think it costs a lot of money to do it, but it brings a new, I would say, life, not just to the business, but to you and to your workers.
Let
So,
me say this,
Go ahead.
if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
You know me, and one of the things that I've always been is very unapologetic.
Oh, very much, yeah.
And so this new rollout is very unapologetic.
Yes, it
and
is.
it's gonna push the envelope.
Wow.
It's not gonna push an agenda.
No.
But it's gonna push the envelope to saying, this is who I am. This is who I've always been. And this is what the Lord has allowed me to create. And so it's very unapologetic. It's like, hey, this is Etha. This is the transparency. This is like, I told my godmother this morning about, I'm Deborah. I am a Deborah.
Yeah.
I'm that Deborah, like, okay, you don't want to go and fight? I'll go with you, but you won't get the victory.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm Deborah. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, yeah, I'll go. Me, Lord, I'll go. And so that's what the rebranding is about. Going to places that, to be honest with you, I was afraid. Like, Lord, I don't even know how to do this.
Yes.
But even in me not even knowing, I've never done this before. I don't even know how to do this. But guess what? I'm going to jump out there and I'm going to figure it out.
Yes.
That's what the rebranding is about.
Yes. Well, I was bringing back for a couple of weekends ago, we were at a special round table
Right.
for business people. And I want to share this because I want this to encourage not just women, but men that not just real estate, but you might be doing any business that the Lord told you to do, or even if the Lord didn't tell you to do it, you're in marketplace, you're an
Right.
entrepreneur. The importance of leaders coming together at the table and helping one another, and being open with one another and not being so competitive,
Right.
but giving their resources out freely to help
Right.
one another, to do not networking to get money, but networking to have relationships. And let's just talk about entrepreneurial relationships that are new, that's happening, that I haven't seen happen in years, on a spiritual level, because I didn't know that this meeting, the round table, was going to do anything with spiritual, because you just threw me in there. You pushed me in, you jumped me in, and then I jumped somebody else in to come along with, and then it ended up being just an amazing time of important information and relationships. So let's talk about business, not just women, but men coming together.
And that's key. And I knew about it, and I already knew the spiritual background, but I didn't want to say, oh, well, Charmaine, this is, I just want you to come,
Yeah.
and I wanted you to receive, and I knew that you would be in prayer about it, but I wanted you to receive, and I'm so grateful that you were able to be a part of, and I know that it's going to lead to greater things, but the importance of, it's not even about networking, it's about networthing.
I like that.
Networthing. How can we collectively use our net worth? And net worth is just not about money, right? Your net worth to help someone else. And here's the thing. When the Lord moved me back to Houston and put me in the right place at the right time amongst the right people, see, we don't believe in competition. We believe this, that it's enough for everybody to get their unfair share. And the reason why the share is unfair is because everybody's not going to do the mindset work.
That's right.
Everybody's not going to wake up and do the lead gen. Everybody's not going to wake up and go to the gym and do the exercise or go to the appointments or have the discipline. So when I first started, I started holding open houses in Bel Air, Texas. And Mike Livingston, who sells everything in Bel Air, you know, like it's not, last year, Mike's, one of his listings was on the cover of New York Times. He took me under his wing. And he said to me, Etha, I started just like you, holding someone else's opens.
Wow.
He said, but here's the deal, Etha. Keep going, because many agents quit because they don't see the result. And to me at that time, Mike was like an icon. He still is an icon because he's one of the founders of my brokerage. But for him to give me an opportunity,
Yes.
and then for him to sow into my life and to speak into my life and saying, you can do this, I started just like you did. So we really believe, like, if there's some knowledge
Yeah.
that someone knows, it's okay. Like, if someone calls me right now and say, hey, Etha, can I see your growth plan and your business plan and your 411 and your 135, which is some business terms. Oh, yeah, give me your email address. Let me send it to you.
Yeah.
Because we really believe you're not my competition. And so I think what's going to help move us forward in these roundtables is don't look at your fellow entrepreneur or business person or colleague or ministry
I like that. Yeah.
person as your competition, especially in ministry.
Especially in ministry.
What we have to remember in ministry is that we're all competing for a crown.
Say it again.
We're all competing for a crown
Yes.
to lay at his feet and cry out, holy, holy. So it shouldn't be a competition.
Shouldn't. Never.
Right? And so that was the thing that moved me forward. And let me tell you, if I had not believed God and moved, I would have lived my days in regret.
Yes.
Because I wouldn't have been able to receive the impartation to then bring it back to my city.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's get back to the city. Like you said, to bring it back to your city, because even though you're in Houston, your heart is still here. You're here, I don't know how many times of the week.
All the
I don't think
time.
people understand that just because they see your Facebook, or if they know you, if they don't know you, that you travel back and forth. So rebuilding the block, let's get that, because I mean, I know the intimate part about it and how your family and everybody's working together to rebuild
Yeah.
the blocks. Not just in Beaumont, but in Port Arthur.
Yeah,
Texas.
all over
All
Houston
over
as well.
Houston.
So I first got my experience, like I said, my grandmother, Eva Baptiste, she was a real estate investor. And back in that day, they didn't have formal training and education or any that we knew of. This is why we have to have these conversations with our children about these things.
That's right.
But I remember my grandfather, Howard Baptiste, he worked at Malone and Hyde, and he would go back and forth from here to Lake Charles until they moved the offices right off of College Street.
Yeah.
And he would go and make the money, and he would give it all to my grandmother.
Yeah.
And my grandmother would invest the money in real estate. So they had several properties all over Jefferson County, and even in Galveston, because we spent most of our weekends at the beach house in Galveston. So I grew up in seeing real estate investing, but I didn't understand it at the time, right? And so in the process of getting into reaching the glass ceiling in the previous career and having these dreams about these abandoned, in my dreams I would see, and I'm a dreamer, and I would see rows and streets of abandoned houses. And so that's all he would show me. And so I pursued the real estate, because to me that meant, okay, get a real estate license. So I did that. And I'm glad I did, because it taught me systems and processes and contracts and scripts and how to position myself and how to get the leads and how to convert, the training part of the vision, right?
Yes.
And so I pursued that, and then I started working with my own investor clients. I have several that are very faithful clients that I help them buy and sell and negotiate on their behalf. And so in doing that, in my mind, I was like, okay, yeah, I've seen this. I'm going to do this. And this will be a retirement strategy for me, right? And so I'm here in Beaumont one day. This is how I started. And I sold a commercial building to a friend. And next door to that commercial building was a house. It clearly had some fire damage, but it was boarded up. And I said to myself in my heart, somebody needs to buy that house. There's a lot of equity in that house. And the Holy Spirit said, well, you need to buy the house. And I'm like, I don't have enough money to buy the house, because instantly your mind will tell you what you cannot do.
You cannot do.
And so anyways, I went through the process, and I had some contact with the owner from the commercial building. And I asked him, I said, what's going on with the house next door? Because neighbors know everything. And you don't know anything about a community, ask the neighbors, the people that live there. And so he told me the whole backstory on the house. He said, I think they want to sell it. I said, good, I want to buy it. Can you get me a contact? He said, sure. So here's my bold faith. Every time I would come, like you said, I'm back and forward, I would ride by the house, because I'm like, eventually I'm going to see somebody at this house.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I saw somebody at the house, which happens to have been the deceased owner's grandson.
Okay.
So I introduced myself. I told him who I was, said I want to buy this house, and I have the ability to pay cash for it. I didn't have the cash for it, but I had the ability. Remember, the
That's
word of
good.
God says that I will give you the ability to get wealth. And I keep going back to the word because the word is
No,
my
that's what it
foundation.
is.
So Deuteronomy 18, I just put it out there with the ability. I have the ability
Yeah,
to pay
you
cash.
didn't lie.
I did not. And so he said, well, here's my uncle's number. My uncle is the administrator of my deceased grandmother's estate. Reached out to him, came back another week, had my dad with me. My dad's a contractor. We walked through the house. And before I left, I had run my comps. And I had wrote the contract out. The only thing I didn't put on the contract was the closing date and the price. I had signed the contract. I had wrote it out because I'm like, Lord, I'm going, and I'm going to buy this house, right? Because
Yeah.
you gave me the ability.
Yeah.
I walked through the house, and my dad is saying, oh, no, and all of this, and the neighborhood. And I said, okay, all right. I wasn't going to argue. So I told the owner, I said, there's a McDonald's right up here on I-10 in Gulf. Can we go over there and have a cup of coffee? So he says, yeah. So we sit and talk, and I said, well, I want to buy the house, and I want to pay cash for it. I already wrote on the contract cash. I'm paying cash for this house. And so he said, okay, I'm going to sell it to you. We agreed on the price. I wrote on the contract. I gave my dad the option and the earnest fee. I said, can you run this in the morning to Capital Title, to Brenda Loftus, just this contract and these 2 checks? And the rest is history.
Wow.
It took some time for that deceased, her will to be probated.
Yes.
But in the meantime, now remember, I don't have the cash.
Yes.
But in the meantime, here's the power of the ability. In the meantime, the will's being probated, and the dock is kind of backed up, right? And so my sister has a YouTube channel, and she was touring a property by Toll Brothers in Dallas on my behalf, and she kept tagging me in the video and shouting my name and my phone number. A couple from Chicago saw the video. They reached out to me. They were moving to Houston. They purchased that $1 million home.
Wow.
On the day of closing, I made enough commission to go buy that house cash.
Wow.
And the day I closed on one day, I got a call 2 days later, hey, everything's been probated. We can close tomorrow. Can you come? I said, yeah. The ability.
The ability.
The ability. And guess what? Pay cash for it. Don't owe anybody anything on
That's it.
And we're in the process of going back to that and finishing out the remodel. It will be a rent house. I get calls every day. Do you want to sell it? I don't want to sell it. You cannot offer me any type of money to buy that house because guess what? Will be handed down to the next generation. And the way I will have it set up is they can 1031 exchange it, meaning that they can exchange it for like of like and defer the taxes till a later date, but they can never sell it.
That's it. Yes.
They can never
Generational
sell
wealth.
it. Generational wealth. And when I ran my numbers, because I'm a huge numbers girl, when I looked at the potential of rent money that was going to come from that property, it's a cash cow. And I got an offer last week. Somebody wanted to give me $60,000 cash for the house, and I said, nope. I'll take the long route to wealth.
Yes. Yes.
Because I can take the 60 and pay, 25 to 40% tax on that gain. But I'm not going to do that right now.
Yes.
That is going to be a unit for my great-great-grandchildren.
Wow.
Generational wealth.
Generational wealth.
Yeah.
So as we getting ready to get to a close, and we're still saying generational wealth, what other houses are you all remodeling in this area?
Oh my God. So we just finished a project so from that house, let me go back. I made a Facebook post of me gutting the house out and cleaning it up,
Yes.
right? An individual from Port Arthur reached out to me because in the end of my video, I always say, hey, if you want to buy, sell, invest, I leave my phone number saying I'm buying houses for cash, right? So I got an inbox on Facebook, and a young man from Port Arthur said, hey, I got a house, you want to buy it? I said, well, I happen to be in town. I come take a look at it. And so I went, looked at the house. We agreed. I purchased the house, and we finished the rehab probably back end of July. Well, in August we finished. Today, I called for my final inspection, and the inspector there, he said, "Oh, baby, I looked through the window. I've been released you." And all I could do, Charmaine, was sit and cry in my living room because people were telling me, "There's nothing in Port Arthur. Why are you going to Port Arthur?" And I was making, you already know I was coming every other day because I'm the
Yes.
general contractor.
Yeah.
I'm the investor, I'm the realtor, and that's another way you can create wealth. When you have the knowledge and the skill, then you have your hand on every intricate part of these deals. And so people were telling me, even some of the people in the neighborhood, "Oh, you'll never do that. You'll never get that," or whatever. And I kept saying a prayer. Because I personally put my blood, sweat, and tears. I worked in this house, right?
Yeah.
I've laid floors. I've painted. I designed the inside of the house. I chose every fixture, every door, everything about this house. I put my passion in this house, and my prayer is that I wanted the house to go to someone, whether it was a family, a single parent, a couple, a young individual just starting out, so that they could build generational wealth.
Wow.
Through home ownership.
Yeah.
Right? And so the house is under contract now. We're going to be
Wow.
closing in the end of October.
Yes.
And I just had, people telling me what I couldn't do. But in the process of making all these trips to Port Arthur is where I'm going.
Yes.
And my family's from Port Arthur, actually. My grandfather's, on my mom's side, they're from Abbeville, Louisiana, but they migrated to Port Arthur, Texas. And so I kept asking the Lord, why are you sending me to Port Arthur? Like, I know Beaumont,
Yeah.
and we got some houses here we just purchased in Beaumont. I know Beaumont, but why Port Arthur? And so the more that I was getting to know the market and the region, because you need to familiarize yourself. When you're doing business somewhere, you got to familiarize yourself with the region.
Yes.
And so when I started working on this house, and this is one thing I believe, don't ever go into a community doing business without giving back to that community, letting the community know you're there. So I door knock the whole community and let them know, hey, I'm Etha, this is my house, you're going to see me in and out with my contractors. Just keep an eye out. Never had any vandalism, no
Good,
theft, no
yes.
incidents. And we had
Yes.
tens of thousands of dollars worth of material in this property, and nothing ever came up missing. So as I'm riding these blocks in Port Arthur,
The blocks.
I'm seeing rows and rows of abandoned houses, red tax structures, just all kinds of things, not just flooded homes, but just opportunity. And I was like, oh my God. So I go back home and I'm in my sanctuary and I'm worshiping God. And when I get up from worship, God brought the dream back. And all I could do was cry. And I said, Lord, that's what that meant?
Yes.
And that's where Rebuilding the Block was birthed from. From the dream back then, and then God showing me the opportunity. And so I'm going to be in Port Arthur until
Yes.
God says, whenever, I'm willing to help homeowners, when I finish these projects. Some will be for sale.
Yeah.
And some will be that we'll hold for the next generation. But I'm willing to help these buyers get into these properties, whatever they need. If it's a credit thing, would help you get the credit where it needs to be. If you need down payment assistance, I have lenders on my team who are experts in knowing where these resources are. Even as
Yeah.
the seller of these properties, I'm willing
Yeah.
to give you some money for your closing costs.
Yes.
To help you go from building someone else's equity and renting
Yes.
to now building your own generational wealth. And so I'm going to be there for a while. I got a phone call the other day from a cousin of mine that works for the city. And she says, are you a not-for-profit organization, cousin? I said, oh, it's on my vision board for this year. My attorney's actually on the way of doing that. She said, well, did you know that we have an opportunity for you to come in and build
Wow.
some
Wow.
houses in underserved areas?
Yeah.
And I said, oh, well, God, this is way bigger than what I am.
It's way bigger.
It's way bigger. And so now that we are there, I didn't know that people were watching. I was just concerned about meeting a deadline
Yes.
and getting things done.
Yes.
And so I got a call 2 weeks ago from Albuquerque, New Mexico, from a wholesaler investing company that say, hey, we see that you're in Port Arthur, Texas, and we have a property that we want you to look at, and they thought that I was just a realtor. And because they were asking me about the numbers, I said, oh, yeah, the numbers make sense. And it's like, well, are you a realtor? I said, yeah, I'm a realtor. And they said, because every realtor that we call from this region keep telling us what we can't do. That'll never happen. You'll never be able to do that. And I said, oh, yes, you can. And he says, well, who did you use to do your rehab? I said, I'm the general contractor. And he says, you have your own crew? I said, yes, sir. I have my own team of men.
Yeah.
I'm the only woman. I have my own team of men, and most of them happen to be my family
Their
members,
family.
right? And he says, and they're local? I said, the majority of them are local, and then I have my main guy who was my mentor in general contracting. He drives back and forth from Houston. He says, well, do you mind looking at this property? I said, of course. He gives me the information, and I'm thinking he wants me to give him a bid on doing their rehab.
Yeah.
So when I reached out to him again, he says, no, ma'am, we want you to buy the house.
Wow.
And I said, okay. And so now those type of opportunities are manifesting because all the Lord needs is one person that's bold enough
To say yes.
to break the norm. And so we're going to be in Port Arthur for indefinitely.
Wow. That's amazing.
Indefinitely.
See, that was some new information I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so as we're closing, I always ask my guests to encourage the people that are watching, because YouTube is not just Beaumont, Houston,
Right.
it's all over, really global. And so those that are interested in becoming business owners, those that are, but right now are in just a dry season, and even those that are not in a dry season may be seasoned, but doesn't understand that marketplace ministry, bringing the spiritual aspect into the business world or the marketplace. Can you encourage them on generational wealth, a low season, dry season, even when you're up, on how as entrepreneurs, we are not only just rebuilding and getting wealth, but we're rebuilding our family and, of course, this nation and the world.
Yeah. And it's really up to us. Because nobody coming to save us.
No.
It's up to us, right? And at the end of the day, here's what's key. All it takes is, if you don't know what a mustard seed is, I encourage you to either Google a picture of a mustard seed or go buy a jar of mustard seeds or whatever. It takes this much effort to see something come to pass. But here's where many of us can't see it through. Because we are afraid of a word that we think is a filthy word, and that's the word process. Anytime you set your hand to do anything in life, you're going to be processed. And in that process, you're going to have a dry season. You might even be mocked. You might even be rejected. You might even be like me, evicted and repoed. Broke is a joke. But guess what? Once you come out of that process, then you will have dominion over that very thing, right? And I've paid my dues in real estate, and I paid my way in business till now. I have dominion, and I have ownership over it. And so once you get to that, my takeaway would be for you today is go through the process. Don't be afraid of the process. It's not going to kill you, but what it will do is to refine you. Because the person that I am now, I was nowhere near this person last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Because trust me, when things would happen to me in dry seasons, I would react like a teething baby. I would have tantrums, Charmaine. I would cry, I would lose hope. And then as I began to go through the process, and even in the process, my worst fears happened. I had a fear of being broke. And then I became broke. Because that's what I thought about all the time.
Yes.
And then when I started thinking in abundance, then things began to change. So my takeaway for you today is go through the process. It's going to refine you. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Wow.
Most of us don't like being in tight situations, right?
No.
And so if you can get comfortable with the process, then, you're going to shine.
So
You're
really
gonna
just
shine.
having a paradigm shift of everything
Shifting.
in your life.
Shifting.
Well, I loved having you here and
I
being
love
with
being a
me.
part
I
of.
mean, I've been waiting on this day so everybody could see you and hear how you encouraged and your story of how God transitioned you from not just being an entrepreneur, but out of ministry
Yeah.
to becoming again your own boss, to coupling ministry and secular
Yeah.
marketplace, and then making it a marketplace ministry, because that's really what it is, and putting God first and the word first and watching how it worked and multiplied and transitioned and metamorphosized everything in your life.
Wow.
Not just looking at it as I want to be rich. It's a lot of rich people, but not a lot of wealthy. I know the difference from rich and
It's a
wealthy.
totally different thing.
And so, but being wealthy in Christ and allowing Him to be Jehovah Jireh, and not just financially, but spiritually, health, mind, body, and soul.
All of it.
And so, I appreciate you being here, and I hope this encouraged anyone that's going to watch this. So thank you once again for joining us on Not in My City Unite. Make sure you click the thumbs up to like it. Also click the little bell button so you can get reminders of our episode. And do not forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.